The Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts is not trash, and I will tell you why in a moment. This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. 10 years before this video, Skallagrim did a video on the Keyblade and explained how you could use it as a weapon. Still, there are a lot of misunderstandings that we have to clear up, and then people will get it, hopefully. Misunderstanding 1: it's not about the Keyblade. There are many Keyblades, over 130 canonically, but fans have made many more, and if you search, you find Keyblade-like things in other franchises. For example, in Sailor Moon you had a Keyblade long before there were Keyblades. For us this means it will be a longer journey to deal with the Keyblades. It will not be finished with this very video because there are so many different ones and they differ in their appearance and therefore they differ in their mechanics. We will therefore already see that it will be a series of videos dealing with these things, because especially if you consider all the fan-made ones, there are literally several hundred differing Keyblade-like objects. It also means there's a large community out there who loves Keyblades. Only the sword community doesn't seem to really like these things. There have been recent videos, for example by Shadiversity, where they came to the point that the Keyblade should be worse than a stick. And that's a bit harsh. Are Keyblades the best weapons ever designed? No, definitely not. But that's not the point here. We want to explore how you could use a Keyblade in a decent and effective way. And as pointed out, the basics for that have been laid out already by Skallagrim more than 10 years ago. And you can already see by the few examples we are showing here, Keyblade and Keyblade are quite different from each other. Some of them even do not resemble keys in any aspect anymore. And we can also already see there's nothing about cutting. These things are about striking and will do bludgeon damage. And what we will be dealing with today is the normal Keyblade, also known as the Kingdom Key. Next misunderstanding: how to hold the thing. Solution from Skallagrim: you could use it in a thumb hold or thumb grip, so that the teeth are facing sideways and not forward. And you know maybe already, we are a big fan of the thumb hold because it opens a lot of possibilities for rotational strikes, also with blade weapons. And while a lot of people claim you could not have edge alignment in such a grip, we can easily demonstrate that it's totally possible to have a proper edge alignment with this type of hold, with the edge facing sideways. These scenes are in fact reused from a video dedicated specifically to the thumb hold. You can have a look for a bit more explanations there. Overall, holding the Keyblade with the teeth inwards, so similar to the edge facing inwards, is really not a problem. It just means you can use rotational strikes very effectively. In fact, if we look for example at the longsword, all the master cuts, so the special and effective types of cutting, require this type of hold, for example for Schielhau, Krummhau or Zwerchhau. Admittedly, a Keyblade doesn't look like a katana or a longsword, but there are certain shape similarities, for example with the Indian Kora, concerning the blade part, and even more so concerning the hilt with the Chinese hook sword. Although the Keyblade is not about cutting, balance and weight distribution are very similar to the Chinese hook sword. And as you see here, the Chinese hook sword can be nicely wielded in thumb grip. Therefore, let's just do the same. We take our standard defenses for the 4 angles and let rotational strikes follow. Very effective, better than a stick because of the heavier weight at the tip. Skallagrim had noted that he found it strange to restrict to just rotational strikes. Yet, if we take the stick comparison, there are eskrima styles, so FMA, Filipino martial arts, that basically only rely on these types of strikes. A scientific paper for one of these styles is linked in the description box below. So far for striking with the keyblade. There are further features. For example, the hilt of a Chinese hook sword can be nicely used for pushing when we are in bind. It should therefore not be surprising that the keyblade can do that as well. And because of the cross-guard-like nature of the hilt, it can do it on both sides. That's definitely a neat feature after performing, for example, a Shilhao-like strike and ending in bind to get control, push, and even strike with the hilt and hand protection. In this aspect, the keyblade reveals itself as a kind of a mixture between a stick and a mace, but with a hilt much more similar to a sword. Simply because we can push, like with a tsuba or with a crossguard. With a stick, we are usually not binding to a sword because we cannot perform this type of push. The keyblade here is more similar to a sword than it is to a stick. Skallagrim's other suggestion: just turn the thing around. That's exactly what I like to do with Chinese hook swords, because the handguard is so much more like an axe-like protrusion than this strange curved tip. Factually, this thing now looks like a very short Chinese halberd. They basically have the handguard as the functional axe head. In this way, you can strike, and you can hook, and you can push, and you can trap. This is a very versatile thingy. So let's do this with the keyblade. This feels quite good, really bit like using a mace. Okay, the teeth at the bottom that form now a kind of pommel are a bit strange, but overall the balance is interesting. Is this the best mace ever? No, definitely not. Yet it clearly is a way to use this object in a fight. And it has advantages that, for example, a stick does not have. It has more inertia, it has a balance that is made up for effective striking, and if you twirl it around, it's also quite intimidating, at least compared to a stick. So overall, I simply took up the 2 suggestions by Skallagrim and can say the keyblade is not as bad as you think. It simply doesn't get the love it deserves, although it should. This will not have been the last video on keyblades, and if you really think a stick is better, try this here with the stick. Hope we could inspire you. See you around next time.